And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition Network here at the Go Local Live Broadcast Center, deep in the heart of the city we love, Providence, Rhode Island, the naked city, the city of, well, about 360,000 stories or so. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_, and of course, the mothership at coalitionradio.us, where you will find a link to our podcast and our YouTube page. I want to thank everyone who's been piling on the likes and the shares and the follows over the last couple of weeks. We say this every week, but social media is the mother's milk, the primary way that we have of communicating with the public, of competing with folks with vast resources to get our message out and to give, whether it be political underdogs, good government types, sometimes incredibly enough, even in Rhode Island both, give them a chance to talk about issues that are challenging to the body politic, as to, let's just say, the usual mindless pablum that fills our airwaves and print media. A couple of things I want to talk about just in the first couple of minutes. Joining me in just a few minutes, he's actually sitting right next to me, is good friend and educational advocate Darryl Gould. But two things I just need to bring up. The first, of course, is the situation ongoing with IGT and Twin River. We were treated to the news today, and shockingly, it's on a Friday afternoon. Who'da thunk it, right? That, of course, that the numbers at Twin River aren't quite as rosy as, well, our governor and our legislature, camped out up there at Halitosis Hall, all credit to Rudy Cheeks, aren't quite what they're supposed to be. I'm a libertarian. I'm proud of it, and I'm proud to be a member of the Libertarian Party of Rhode Island. We've preached for years that government should not have a monopoly on these type of income activities. That, in fact, not only should we not sign 20-year, feel-good, connected contracts to any vendor, regardless of whatever promises are made, that in fact that gambling, if it is in fact legal, and it is an activity that between consensual adults should be legal, should be practiced and available to everyone throughout the economy, throughout the free market. What does that mean? It means if you have a restaurant, a nightclub, a bookstore, if it's okay for the state to do it, well, damn it should be okay for you. Because here's the problem. The state continues to use their monopoly powers, the powers of force and coercion, to control economic activity. And in doing so, redirects the money, the power, the income, just got all back to the state, where it is grotesquely inefficient. And it also directs it to what is largely becoming an out-of-state corporation. Of course, we're talking about Twin River, headquartered not in Lincoln, but in my mind, philosophically, Twin Riverton, Rhode Island. So we're shocked when we continue to see an economic downturn at the height of, and some would say after the events of this week, the beginning of the end of the largest bull market, great expansions in American history. What has it done for Rhode Island? Little. What has Rhode Island government done to support it? Nothing. In fact, quite honestly, they've obstructed it. And I would argue, I would posit to you, as a listener, as someone who is thinking went beyond, if you will, the superficial, that if it were not for the immediate presence of the great Boston economy, one of the white hottest economies, if you will, on the planet, that in fact the state of Rhode Island would be pretty tough shape. So now, of course, we're treated to the notion that, well, we're losing money to the competition. Well, the competition is superior. That's what happens in a free market. People are leaving the state wholesale and taking their money with them. I never want to see anyone lose their job. I've been there. But the state needs to go through a kind of a painful correction where they wean themselves off of casino gambling and gambling money, which is really nothing more than a regressive tax on the mathematically impaired. And I'm someone, I feel the urge, and I've done it a few times. I played the ponies, played the casinos. So I am no different than anyone else. But in terms of its economic contribution, I would argue that without a doubt, that the huge presence of casino gambling in this economy has actually been a contributing factor to the doldrums that we've actually been part of now for largely my lifetime. So A, it's time to get government out of the gambling business. B, if we're going to say that gambling is legal, and we should, then everyone in the economy should be able to participate in it. And then maybe some of that money will stay home here in the state. It'll be reinvested into the state because that's what happens when you have a truly free market. Some big coalition news. Anyone who's watched the show or seen the podcast out there knows that about a month or so ago, we did a story. It was, I thought, one of the more provocative conversations I've ever had, almost to the point of being soulful, with folks from a little town in New Mexico called, well, Deming, New Mexico. The folks in Deming reacted in a way to what's called in the media, what's called by the academics, exogenous event. And that exogenous event was waking up one morning and finding oneself about 30 miles from a hotly contested American-Mexican border in the midst of a refugee crisis. And unlike the federal government, which has warehouse people, I'll stay away from the concentration camp. Oops, there, I said it. But it boxed people, put them in grotesque conditions. And again, I don't care that it happened on the Democratic watch as well. A pox on both your houses. But I believe in the free exchange of people, idea, and commerce, and I believe in free movement. And I respect the nation's right to have its borders, but at the same time, I believe the primacy of the individual's right to move about unfettered, for lack of a better term, trumps that. So this town in New Mexico, astonishingly enough, not a wealthy area by any means, hardworking people, solidly middle class, working class, somehow came up with the notion, well, they woke up and about 40 people were barely clothed, in terrible condition, cold, hungry. They'd feed them, donate some clothes, put them in contact with family members in other parts of the country. Because remember, these people are actually refugees. Let's not forget that. And they're refugees, perhaps another conversation, another place, for reasons that were inflicted upon them by the actions of this country. Sorry. And no, that doesn't make me anti-American. And sorry, I'm not leaving. I got nowhere else to go. So these folks have processed thousands of refugees. They've brought them into a facility that's clean, well lit. They've given them health care. They've given them food. They've given them love. Some supplies to take them on their way, an opportunity to contact people in their community, and also people that they were going to see in other parts of the country. So instead of this becoming a warehouse people, this was a stepping off to hopefully the beginning of a new life for people who had literally traversed a continent to participate in the American dream. I believe in the goodness of people. I'm a hopeless optimist. Now, while that may shock many, I look to folks like this, as none other than Ronald Reagan did in one of his last speeches as president, as the intellectual, moral, and physical capital upon which a nation expands, on which a nation continues its track for greatness. So we had this conversation through the miracle of Skype, and it reached out, it touched a couple of people. So they've asked me next weekend to go down to the New Mexico-Mexican border, do some interviews, alongside with some volunteers, to participate in the comings and goings, if you will, of the town of Deming, New Mexico. My understanding is it's the 40th annual duck race. Have no idea what that means, but I'm going to find out this week. But also just to meet some of the people that I interviewed. I can't tell you how much this has touched me. This has been a labor of love for 6 years for me. We operate here on a shoestring. We've got some great sponsors. One of them sitting next to me. The opportunity to see human kindness at a level that we, quite frankly, don't see around here very often these days is unparalleled. The opportunity to tell their story, even if at its most superficial level, priceless. So hopefully we'll be broadcasting from, at some point, we're going to overcome some technical obstacles. You know, the coalition does not possess state-of-the-art equipment. I will say this, if anybody feels the desire to reach out and help a little bit with with some of this stuff, Coalition Radio Show at Gmail is Venmo. There's a link to Patreon, but we're really not asking for anything from people. I'd ask that, and we'll advertise this week, that you take a few moments, maybe break out of your bubble, maybe actually walk away from your preconceptions, whether they be liberal, conservative, whatever they are. I don't believe in labels anymore. And just try to approach this issue from a simple level, a simple perspective of humanity. Because that's what we're going to try and do. So we'll keep you posted on how that develops this week. And hopefully, with any luck, we'll be able to give you a side of the story that, well, people in this country may not see that often. So let's get to this week's programming. Joining me for the 30th or 40th time is a friend, a political ally, a business owner, a sponsor, an educational activist. He's been knee-deep in what's going on in the East Bay now for years, long preceding any involvement or activities he had as a candidate or as a member of the Libertarian Party. He's my good friend. He's Darryl Gould. Welcome back to the coalition, buddy.
Thank you very much, Pat.
All right. So,
here we are again.
All right. What do we call this on the coalition now? As the stomach turns. So I just got to ask you the question, then I'm going to let you rep.
Okay.
$17,500.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, after this conversation over, there is good news. There's a new sheriff in town, and we're going to talk about him, and and the changes that he's already bringing. But what do the kids say? WTAF?
Something like that.
Let it rip. What is going on?
So, as you mentioned, there's this the number is actually $17,250 and I believe 75 cents. That number is important because that is the dollar value that was given to our team. So our group, for those of you who are new to what we do in Bristol Warren schools, I am part of a group of parents, taxpayers. There's certainly some teachers involved, staff, things along those lines, that we're the Bristol Warren Regional School District Parent and Student Advocacy Group. So basically our group is a group of parents that really is dedicated to trying to improve things in the school district. And obviously a lot of that is done through advocacy. This will be helping families with IEPs, helping with 504 programs and curriculum and bullying and safety issues and you name it. So we have our core issues that we focus on, and then we kind of handle these one-offs. One of these one-offs is, and the one-offs tend to fall under the maybe corruption or impropriety or things that don't fall in the other buckets, but they certainly warrant speaking to. So this all surrounds a project at the high school. Back in 2008, 11 years ago, we had, anyone familiar with the high school, it sits basically on wetlands. There's a ton of water that moves around and underneath that school. So drainage on our athletic fields has always been an issue. And so back in 2008, the district actually said we need to do something. There were federal funds available. It's my understanding that the feds were willing to pay 70 cents on the dollar for this project, with the district paying 30 cents on the dollar. This is a project that is well over $1 million. And so what's interesting about this is I was really only aware of the field project over the last couple of years because there have been problems with it. Design issues, lack of approvals from the school, not going to the town and getting planning approval or things along those lines to make these changes. And the end result has been a field that does not drain properly. And there are property owners that abut these fields who now, because of the redirection of this groundwater, their houses are now being flooded. So, it's obviously one of those examples of people not doing things right and as a group that really looks to be the watchdog for our district, it was something where we have a great member of our group, Steve St. Angelo, and Steve is our FOIA guy. And so he does our Freedom of Information requests, and he's very good at it. And so
you have to be, by the way. FOIA is an art form.
Yeah, and
because the collective effort of Rhode Island government at every level to avoid and ballgame FOIA requests, which are essentially basic information requests, which are shrouded in secrecy through either being labeled as a personnel issue or happening in executive session.
Correct.
We are not a transparent government in this state. The term opaque is probably a polite one because there may be youth listening tonight.
Right. So That's, and I'm sure there are 3 somewhere listening. So this, so we started looking at this field issue, and obviously there are property owners who were complaining about it, and what happened. So Steve had submitted a FOIA request, really looking at the history of this project. What were the funds that were paid out? Who were the contractors? We do have concerns about some impropriety with bids. So that's part of the reason why we're looking into these things now. And ultimately, so he submitted the request, and the response wasn't much unlike what Patricia Morgan or Ken Block experienced when they tried to get information from state or local government entities. So with Patricia Morgan, she was looking to get information about the Google settlement money and where that was and what the state was doing with that. And I believe at the time, Kilmartin, the Attorney General, came back and said, we need to collect all this data and furnish it, and there's some time that goes into this, and we are allowed by law to charge a reasonable rate for, basically collecting and getting this information to you, including copies and things of that nature. So,
and let me just point out that if, in the year 2019, if during the initial period of aggregation of said data, they simply made it available on something called the World Wide Web, you would have A, virtually no need for FOIA, and B, you would certainly not need to, and by the way, I have this mental image of someone in the Bristol Warren School District in charge of a mimeograph machine, and she's got the blue paper, and she's doing the rolls. And
it has that particular smell that we all knew when we were
in school. Exactly. But the notion again that in 2019, raw data, should not be available instantly
to
taxpayers is ludicrous. But I digress.
No, and that's ultimately, that's why FOIA exists. So the response was from the district's attorneys was basically answering a few points that we made as far as, okay, to get this information, it will require this many hours of labor, and we assume it'll be this many pages of paperwork. And so you tally it all up, and that's where this $17,250 number came from. So the district's expectation is for, if we want information about this project, which again has gone on for 11 years, cost millions of dollars, and appears to be a failure, we have every right to figure out what's going on here. And the fact that the powers that be don't have this at their fingertips, given the state of this project, I would assume that our school committee, when they find out that, the results weren't achieved and there were actually some unintended consequences that have negatively affected other property owners, let's look into this and see what's going on. And the fact that it appears that may not be happening because the information, again, isn't at their fingertips, and they're talking about having to collect and kind of coordinate and organize all this data for us. It's just, that's also a concern. Do they have their eye on the ball the whole time, or is this just something because it's not their money being spent that there isn't the care and concern as far as how it's being spent and who's being a good steward for these taxpayer funds? So that is and this is just one example. And my hope is that and we submit FOIA requests all the time, and they don't always come back with this enormous price tag. So we understand that some of it has to do with the immense amount of information that's here. This was a large project. There were multiple bids that were submitted, so every copy is another 25 cents and all this. But they were literally talking about thousands of hours of labor in order to collect and provide us with this information. So that is, the field is an issue, how it went down was an issue, the waste of money was an issue, but ultimately for us, right in the here and now, it's this, we keep on hearing the word transparency from our school committee, and we're just not seeing it in practical application.
And it's very selective.
Very selective.
So the first thing that needs to happen, and unfortunately we're hellbound to this, to Halitosis Hall, is that someone should almost take like a hammer throw and toss it right through the FOIA laws. You ever see one of those hammers at track and field?
Oh yeah, and it's funny that you bring that up because we also hammer throw cage was, God, it's a perfect example in our district. It's become a joke in our group. It's become a joke with the new superintendent to a degree. The amount of attention that was paid to a hammer throw cage and its location at the high school, the fact that that was appeared to be, at least by the amount of time focused on it, a high priority, is insanity. But it's one of those things where it kind of took on a life of its own, and my hope is that that stuff doesn't continue in the future, and we can really sink our teeth into the issues that matter.
Well, I mean, based on what I've heard, you've got two paths to athletic success in East Bay. Of course, you've got baseball, and congratulations to the Barrington team. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming we're going to see the similarly spectacular results from the Bristol Warren School District track club and the hammer throw. I mean, is that going to be? Do we have Olympic candidates for the hammer throw?
And I know we've also had tax. We had a budget decrease, a funding decrease. So, as far as I know some of the, I don't want to offend people, call them not mainstream, but like track and field, for example, kind of the 1A sports. Those are being turned into clubs or eliminated altogether. So I'll have to look into it because I'm not a hammer throw guy, so I don't know the details of the sport.
I think you have to go to the Ocho.
Yeah, exactly.
ESPN 8.
ESPN Bente Nueve or something like Channel 29.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's it's one of those things that took a life of its own, and it's really noise for us, and we hope to just kind of kick that to the side and really again focus on the core issues.
But on a serious note, we spoke earlier about one of the teachers who's been listed in the layoffs as having done spectacular work with people who learn differently.
Correct.
And those are the
Allison
positions,
Lewis.
right? Those are the positions that, for whatever reason, sadly, become the first cuts.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever said this before. In the defense of our district,
What?
yeah, I know. So, in the defense of our, some of this stuff, they're handcuffs with the unions.
Right.
You have people with seniority, people in certain departments. So all of a sudden, it's full-time, part-time, and because of the budget cuts, we've had mergers of positions, and so because of that, there's actually much like you referenced, Allison Lewis, who was actually the district teacher of the year. She was pink slipped.
And what was the program?
It was called the PASS program. So this was a program that was dedicated to helping students who really were identified as potentials for dropout, and that might be a variety of reasons. So. And depending upon who you talk to in the group, and I know that that Allison did work with students even outside of what was formerly, the defined lines of the program. But these are kids who, some of them might be just straight dropout, risks. They're not interested in school. They'd never been able to connect. They don't see a ton of value in it. And with a little bit of one-on-one attention and instruction, she does a great job in reaching these students and getting them into the fold and finding a way to reach them and getting them interested in school and keeping them there. Mm-hmm. She's done some work with kids in athletics, and some of these kids are kids who have no interest in school, but they're great athletes or they're interested in sports. But even if they went to school, they likely wouldn't be able to play sports because of academic issues. Mm-hmm. So Allison has done a lot of work with them in really trying to get them in a place where they can enjoy, the sports that they enjoy, the extracurriculars, but at the same time helping them academically and getting them to the point where they're walking across the stage, their senior year. So fortunately, it looks like, and I will, and you alluded to the change in leadership.
And we'll get to that in just a minute.
Yep. So Allison, my hope is that she's working with the current superintendent, what that will look like. And again, it's a personnel issue, so that's something we won't get information on. But it's our hope that she stays in the district. My gut feeling is that she may, but we'll see where the chips fall.
If you're just joining us, Darryl Gould, educational activist, former candidate for office. In full disclosure, one of this show's sponsors is joining us. He's talking about some ongoing FOIA situation where, and we've heard this tale before, I don't know if I've ever heard $17,000 in change for information tied to a variety of construction projects, one in particular, an athletic field, that has gone way beyond budget, has gone way overdue, and it's got sort of caught in the same morass that unfortunately, all too typically, you hear about municipal projects. A quick note about one of our sponsors tonight. This show is brought to you by the following folks at Yacht Club Bottling, yachtclubbottlingworks.com. Rhode Island's boutique soda before we knew we needed boutique soda. Long before hipsters donned their dark glasses and short, skinny jeans and went to try and figure out how to make something niche that they could then talk about at a coffee house. For the last 100 and something years, Yacht Club Soda has been building, I believe, America's finest soda. Natural cane sugar, natural flavors. I believe the best root beer on the planet. And listen, after the couple weeks we've had, I think we all deserve some local vanilla ice cream. One of our state legislators put out in the middle of the Providence school crisis release her own little independent pole of ice cream. I don't know if I'd want to do that, but whether it be the ice cream machine of Cumberland or your local ice cream store, Yacht Club Soda perfectly pairs with anything you're doing this summer. They've been a friend of the show for a number of years, and again, we support independent businesses managing to thrive in a difficult environment here in Rhode Island because they also support independent media, which somehow manages to survive in a difficult climate in Rhode Island. So our heart is out to them, of course, this week after the loss of really their patriarch, and we wish them nothing but love and nothing but well. Darryl, so we've got this situation, and you'll keep us apprised that Mr. St. Angelo actually weighed in that he's, I get the sense from him that he's, what's the term, spitting nails?
So you might be a little fired up these days.
Yeah,
understandable.
I finally had the opportunity to meet him a few months ago, and
he's I mean, we're a band of parents, so there's no cookie cutter here. And Steve, what he brings to the table is, certainly some experience as far as interaction with government. He's done some work down in Washington for his own business purposes. So he's experienced in that realm. So he kind of fell right into the FOIA space, and it's a space that he's comfortable in, and he does very well at it. So
right, and that's it makes an interesting point on the parents that are involved in your group. You've got people who are parents, but who are parents of children who have long since left the system.
Yeah.
You've got parents who are newly enmeshed and newly immersed in the system and all its dark magic, who have just had children come to the community. So it's a really nice mix of people, backgrounds, experiences, age, and interests.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's an eclectic group, but it's also a testament of when people are trying to do good and trying to do the right thing the right way, that it doesn't matter what our backgrounds, our ages, we're all over the place. Like I said, we have grandparents who don't even have kids; they have grandkids in the district. We have volunteers, teachers, faculty, staff. We have some students who are, periphery involved. So, and that's always. I hope that's always the case, because I think with that variety comes obviously different points of view and different ideas, and will help us move forward.
So this week you had the opportunity to meet with the interim superintendent.
Yes.
By all accounts, and congrats to Bristol Warren as a community, because they found a good one.
I believe so. I'm 95% in Dr. Bryce's corner, and I only say the 5% I'm not, because I can't trust in someone wholly until I have some experience with them and see how true to their word they are. But I have no indication that he is anything but an honest and forthright man. So,
and the reviews from him, we did a little backgrounder, if you can imagine.
Yeah.
The reviews for him were nothing less than top notch.
I think he's exactly what our district needs. He appears to be a cleaner, for lack of a better term. His recent history appears to be going into troubled districts, spending a year to 2 years, and turning these places around. We're talking, New Rochelle, New York, Maryland. He's in places where we have 6 schools.
Right.
He was in a district with 200. So this is something where, and I love his approach. We reached out to him to introduce ourselves and our group. I'm sure that our reputation preceded us, and he heard some things about our group, some good, some bad, and that doesn't surprise me one bit. But it's one of those things where we reached out to him, and he said, let's get a meeting. We sat down with a couple of members of our group, and we had a 2-hour meeting, and it was kind of open dialogue. We kind of explained to him what our background is, what our goals are, what our experience with the district is, what our problems are. and ultimately to go and to say, how can we support you with your efforts and what you're doing? So it was a great meeting. I like him, he's a systems guy. And the language that he used in that conversation was different than what I've heard in any school committee meeting. It seemed very business centric. Not that he's talking about profit or loss, but talking about assets and the way we run it. We should be running it like a business. This mindset that just because it's a public agency, you don't have to look at money and you don't have to dot your I's and cross your T's. And the reality is, people don't look at it this way. Much you're saying about free market and competition, we're in competition with the other districts around us.
And the world.
Yeah, if you're looking at buying a home, and I know I've had friends who've reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm from Bristol. I'm looking at going back, but I see all the stuff you post about the schools. Talk to me." You know what? If you're really concerned about your kids' education, that's a high priority for you. Then right now, maybe we don't have the best district for you. And given that Barrington's right next door and they're a top school district, they have a beautiful new $68 million middle school that looks like it belongs on a college campus, and it's unreal. But we're competing against those other towns. So
I think it's important, too, that organizations within government need to understand that not only are taxpayers, as I call them, necessary inconveniences to have around to fund what is the true mission of the school system in towns like Bristol Warren, which is to keep alive a bureaucracy filled with people who have little or nothing, it seems at times, to do with educating children. They need to understand that you're not just Darryl Gould activist, you're not just Darryl Gould parent, you're a Darryl Gould customer.
Taxpayer.
You be paying the bills. You are entitled to a high level of customer service. One of my arguments for moving away from public education is that ethos doesn't and obviously we know some great teachers who are duking it out, doing the best they can under often very trying circumstances. But ultimately, the organization as a whole is not customer driven. And $17,500 or $300 FOIA requests don't exactly reinforce the notion of customer driven.
No, and it's one of those things where, when we keep on hearing the word transparency from our school committee, and that's one entity where we see anything but. I'm happy Dr. Bryce has come in and introduced some rules about executive session.
Tell me more.
As far as when that will take place. So historically what's happened recently, any recent history at our school committee meetings is, you have a lot of parents showing up who are concerned and want to speak and want to hear what's going on. And what would happen quite often is they take public comment and then immediately go into executive session, maybe for 2 or 3 hours.
Right.
So you have parents who have kids to get home to, meals to cook, all this, work to prepare for the next day, all this other stuff. And we might be getting out of there at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night when they're just getting out of executive session. And it may be coming out of executive session and banging a gavel and saying we're adjourned. So Dr. Bryce has come in and said, let's move executive session to the beginning. That way, which does a couple things. Our meetings generally start at 7, so we'll give people a little bit more time to get there after work,
right.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing. He's really trying to keep it within a half an hour window, and let's just keep this concise and focus on any litigation and personnel issues.
Right.
And that's it. And the rest of the time really should be out and open with the taxpayers and the parents and the families involved in the school district.
And it's interesting because it really, the dynamics of who is the boss, for lack of a better term. In a sense, the school superintendent is hired by the school district, but if I can probably misquote or paraphrase Bill Parcells, the once great football coach until everyone realized it was really Belichick all along, right? He talked about being able to do the shopping. He talked about
you want me to cook dinner, then let me buy the groceries.
Right. So, in the Protestant tradition, particularly I'm a Methodist, there's a board, which might be completely foreign if you're from a Catholic tradition, which is the staff parish relations committee, which does it's incredibly enough, a job review of the pastor and performs oversight in case there are difficulties or challenges should arise.
Catholic Church doesn't want that.
But you have that kind of dynamic here. it strikes me as an outsider, which I am, that he has made it very clear in a very professional, soothing manner that he's the new sheriff.
Yeah.
He's in charge.
It's and it was an interesting dynamic with Dr. Andrade, the former superintendent. I said jokingly that I was convinced that he had nudes of everyone on the school committee because I understand why they would kiss his ring constantly. And it seemed like to say it was managing upwards is an understatement.
Right.
He was a tyrant. He was a soft-spoken one, but he was a tyrant, and he ran the district with an iron fist. And I'm not going to say the school committee was afraid of him, but they certainly didn't challenge him. And I don't know if it was because they just had a misplaced amount of respect for his capabilities and performance. But at the end of the day, they didn't feel like they were holding him accountable. It almost sounded like they answered to him.
Right.
We had that conversation with Dr. Bryce on Wednesday or Thursday, Wednesday. And I told him, I said, I based upon your views and what I believe, for who I believe you to be, I really hope that you have the influence over the school committee that the past superintendent, because I think you can really, force some good. And he had a great point. He said, in as much as he's hired by them and he is responsible for appointing them, it's his district to run. And the school committee really should be focused exclusively on policy, and the running of the district really should fall on his plate. And I think I just get the feeling that there's been some commingling of those responsibilities in the past when it suited people and sometimes for less than honest or good reasons. But yeah, so formally, if Dr. Bryce is watching this, and I said to him the other day, welcome to the district. And the first thing Dr. Bryce said to us in the meeting was, candidly, like, why aren't you guys one of the top, if not the top districts in the state? He's looking around our towns and saying, he's coming from economically depressed areas where they're really struggling, inner city schools, and he's looking at our district. It's a fairly affluent, it's not equitable from one town to the next, but fairly affluent, high education level. We don't have a ton of poverty. There is some, but you look at what we spend on students, which is over $17,000 a year, and which is twice the national average, and he's saying, what's preventing you guys? And some of it, when we talked to him about it, you could see the look in his face. You could tell he's just, this is Mickey Mouse stuff, and some of the stuff is amateur hour. And every indication is that he listened to us. We had a great dialogue. He's very respectful. He's all about the student. He's all about transparency, which is big for us. And he has some great ideas. And so, we posed the question, how can we support you? And we have some programs that we're talking about that at our next meeting, we will discuss internally and see if we have the resources and where we want to spend our time. But we're actually looking to turn the page and hopefully start what's a very cooperative relationship with our district. We will still hold them accountable. I think there are plenty of other people who have been more than happy to be sycophants for the district, and if they're getting something out of it personally, then they will look the other way or shut their mouth. That's not what we do. But I believe we can forge a relationship with Dr. Bryce where we can take the good with the bad. And just because we have a disagreement or conflict on something does not mean that it's Facebook and we have to hate each other and and it's World War III. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but he actually invited our group. We're going to have recurring meetings with him, so we have a seat at the table, which is nice. And he will be joining us for one of our meetings in the future, so we can do a little bit of an intro with the people who run in our group. So we're really excited about it. There's still, we still have some of the open issues. I know last time we spoke, Pat, one of the big issues was these two boys in the middle school who were suspended and really twisting in the wind. That really has not been sorted out. There have been hearings at RIDE that have been delayed. So these families and these two boys who are entering school, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, have not received report cards for the previous year. They have not been told if they can return.
Well, and it's mid to late August.
Yeah, this is.
How is it possible that, and I'm not going to branch in other areas, let's just say generically speaking, when the will is there, that this school district, the state Department of Education can turn on a dime and issue edicts and publish mantras and diatribes and focus like lasers on an issue. How do you not, during the latest time of the year for administrators, simply deal with issues like that? Yeah, there's young men's, literally their lives are at stake.
And I mean, it was egregious. These boys were wronged. I understand that it has gone, grievances have been filed, and this is,
Yeah, they were wrong. They were.
Yeah, in hearings at RIDE. The challenge, so one of the unsubstantiated rumors that's going around, and again, this is where we've talked about how politics in the East Bay has crept into our nonpartisan school committee.
And well, in politics, well, let's be blunt, it's virtually crept into every area.
Every area, yeah. True. And so because some of the people involved, the groups they run with politically, happen to fall on the same team as people who are sitting state reps in our districts, there is a concern that has been voiced from people involved that there may be some outside influence from state reps who may be trying to slow down or stall that process. If we find out that that's the case, then we'll lower the boom on anyone who's doing. This is something where if that's the case, these are people who are literally working against students and children for the sake of protecting people's political career, and that's unacceptable. So my hope is that it's not the case, but it is Rhode Island, and it is. I'm not so naive to think that that's not a realistic possibility based upon the political climate in our part of the world.
And it won't be the first time it's happened.
No, unfortunately.
In the East Bay or anywhere else in the state. Is the superintendent, he's on a 1 year?
He is on a 1 year contract. It is also my understanding that he should be eligible for the permanent position when that becomes available. Again, based upon what I see from him, right now I hope that he's here for the long term. He seems like a team player, and he's just, like I say, he's a systems guy. I like the way he thinks, and he's not worried about upsetting people. He's worried about fixing things and making sure that the students are getting the services they need and deserve.
Right. So we started out with a difficult situation, but that has the potential for administrative relief. We're going to, I think it's time. It's clear that this crowd in Bristol Warren reacts to pressure, and they have a reason to be scared. And they're not going to be able to hide.
No, and I think based upon Dr. Bryce's explanation of how he views his role in the school committee, my gut feeling is that we will likely have a very cooperative relationship with the superintendent, and that I believe that will be one of the biggest changes that allow us to actually force change in our district. I still believe that the relationship with our school committee, unfortunately, will be somewhat adversarial because we have not seen, while we've had a change in our superintendent, we have not seen a change in attitude, behavior, performance at the school committee level. So,
Right.
and it's and for those on the school committee who may or may not be watching, if this gets back to you, you're always welcome to attend our group meetings. You can follow the Bristol Warren advocacy page, and we'll be posting public meetings soon. And you're welcome to come out, parents, students, family, whatever. Come on out. You don't have to get super involved in things. If you just want to come and even put your ear to the glass and hear what's going on and become aware of it, if nothing else, fantastic. But if school committee members want to join us as well.
The question,
fantastic.
Has any of them reached out to you?
Nah,
to your group to get involved? I mean, it strikes me that we're all adults, and the first way that you can bridge seemingly insurmountable divides at times is a simple phone call and a hello and what's on your mind.
I've been disappointed with some of the response. And I haven't reached out to, I'll give credit. I haven't reached out to everybody. But John Bento, who is one of our sitting school committee members he's one of the 3 that represents Warren. I called John and he picked up the phone and had a very polite and constructive conversation with me for probably about 30 or 40 minutes. I've reached out to other school committee members. I'm in a good mood and it's a Friday, so I'm not going to put a flamethrower to anybody and name names, but I've had people who outright ignore us, no response whatsoever. I have people who refuse to have live in-person conversations, phone conversations. They want to hide behind a computer and be able to think out their answers and be very careful in the information that they share. You know what? That's not cooperation. You know, trust. It's a two-way street, and it comes on foot and it leaves on horseback. And you know, if our sitting school committee members really want to cooperate with our group and the other parents, you know, there are other kind of splinter groups that have different purposes and different goals, but ultimately we're all here trying to work for the students. And you know, if they want to work with us, we're here. But I have not gotten, I hate to say, I've never gotten any inclination that anyone in the school committee has the desire to. We're a necessary evil in their eyes, I think, to a degree, which is sad, but it's understandable. You know, we're watchdogs to a degree, and we hold people accountable. And you know what, whether you're not doing your job properly or not, you don't like getting called out on it, and you certainly don't like having it done publicly. So I certainly understand if people are a little, their feelings are a little bit hurt because we're pointing out inadequacies or failings or things like that. But at the end of the day, while we're, some people might say we're quick to jump on people, we're just as quick to come in and lend a hand. So it's there that the hand is always outreached if you want it, but you can either reach out for it or.
Well, and what's disappointing at times is that people who just join the body cannot be held accountable, if you will, for the sins of their fathers.
No.
So why not? And this seems to happen constantly in government. You've got a honeymoon period where you're not looking to blame individuals, but where there's no ownership. In fact, there's a legitimate disassociation from events in the past that give you the opportunity as a leader, not just a member of a body, but as a leader, to say, okay, you know what, I'm not here to purge people, I'm not here to destroy people. This, whatever it is not working. Let's take this moment of time from day one and address this. And let's just get it out of the way before, and I'll always fault Angel Tavares as mayor of Providence. Mm-hmm. He had the opportunity. He should have brought Providence into a structured bankruptcy within weeks of ascending to power, because he had the power to do so. He had the bully pulpit, and he had a lot of respect from people. And that, the problem doesn't go away. It just festers. And now here we are, how many years later? And it's not his fault per se, but he had a legitimate opportunity, as did Jorge Alorza, to draw a line in the sand and say, okay, we got to start from scratch.
Or Cicilline, for that matter.
That's true.
I mean, it goes way back, but everybody kicks the can down the road because there's that next position that they want, that next office that they're going to run for, and they can't risk that. So it's sweep it under the rug and hope nobody catches it until you're sitting somewhere else. And that's certainly what has happened with a number of these people.
So we only got a minute or two left. What do you have another meeting scheduled for your group?
We have kind of an internal meeting that's happening later this month. We're going to have probably our first really public one during the month of September. So we have a meeting scheduled with Dr. Bryce. So I'll be an after the school, when the dust settles, now that the rubber's hitting the road, what are the issues now that school's in session? And I mean, perfect example, we're seeing issues with class schedule at the high school. Kids are getting scheduled. It's all right, I'm getting 3 math classes, and there's duplication, and I'm not a business. I've never taken a business track, so why do I have strictly business classes? And why am I taking the same class, and one is online and the other one is an in classroom? Which when I heard, I didn't realize that, I know that there's computer-based instruction and computer-led training or instruction, what have you, but I did not realize the amount of computer-based instruction that's happening in our high school, which kind of lends to our view on public education, which is, if that's a tool that's working in a way kids can learn, then why do we have all these brick buildings, and why can't people learn at their own pace and their own curriculum and what suits their, the way they learn and what they want to learn, things like that. So it's a little side on that.
But let's close on this thought, because I think this is the next one we have to bring up next time you're in. You've got this incredibly diverse set of students, and I'm not just talking about ethnicity, sexuality, financial backgrounds. I'm focusing simply on how people learn. And the notion that we as a government, as a community, as a body politic, would spend immense amounts of money on a one-size-fits-all bricks and mortar approach, which focuses on this large-scale collective curriculum, is ludicrous.
The analogy that I've come up with for kind of our education system is it's like channel locks. And so, people's ability to learn is much like your speed in a boat. So the channel door is open and everyone goes in and the door closes behind you. So now you're in first grade, and there might be kids who are fast learners and they jet right to that next door. But then there are kids who trail. But the kids who are fast learners have to wait, and then everybody catches up, and then the next set of doors open. Everybody walks through, you close, now you're in second grade. And again, some kids might race to that third grade door, but they can't open it. So we can talk about ed reform and going to a K through 10 system and getting rid of grades, as we understand them today, and looking more towards, if you're in third grade, if you're that'll make you a 9-year-old kid. So if you're a 9-year-old kid and you can do calculus, why should you be sitting there doing multiplication? And so we need to come up with a structure that allows kids to really reach their full potential rather than capping it. And because a variety of things happen, they lose interest, failing performance issues, things like that. So anyway, again, that's a whole nother conversation. But I think the long and the short of it for where we are now at Bristol Warren is I think we have a very promising new leader. He is an inclusive guy, and we're looking forward to working with him. Our group is getting bigger, getting more organized. So thank you to everyone in our group. That's a group of people that I appreciate immensely, because these are people who it's a lot of people say this is a second full-time job for us. It's insane how much time we spend on these ed issues. I literally these people, and I'm not going to name names because there's a number of them, and I don't want to leave somebody out, but you guys all know who you are. These are people who are like working tirelessly at this stuff, and it might not even be for their kids. And so that's where I think the strength of our group is. So we're going to continue to grow. We're going to get more public. So please follow our page on Facebook. We will be getting information out there as we communicate with Dr. Bryce. As always, we are an advocacy group. So while we've been focusing a lot on some of the corruption and issues with personnel and things along those lines, if you have a student, a child who is experiencing bullying, having academic issues, having social issues in school, and things along those lines, please reach out to us. We're not therapists, we're not law enforcement, we're generally just people who want to help. And so our strength is in we have some subject matter experts when it comes to like IEPs and bullying policy and things along those lines. And we have some great resources that we can point people in the right direction. So you don't have to blaze your own trail. There are people who've done this, and they're good people who are more than happy to help. So as always, please feel free to reach out. Again, I'm Darryl Gould. For those of you who don't know me, you can private message me, follow me on Facebook, reach out, and I can get you into the group or whatever the case may be. And as always, Pat, thank you for giving us the microphone. This is a very important issue to us, and so we certainly appreciate the fact that because it is this kind of watchdog. Let's hold the people accountable and making them do right. we appreciate the time that you give us and let me come on here and share these things.
Well,
So,
and I'll leave you with this thought. I'd love to have you. It would be fun to have, you, and particularly as we start to move and purge the system, if you will, of all this malfeasance. It would be great to have someone like yourself or someone from your group and the superintendent, the acting superintendent, in studio, just to have a frank conversation. Because this type of environment, I think, lends well to having a conversation that's easily accessible to literally everyone, yet at the same time, it can be done so without the trappings of a big hall and things like that. And, you know, we can set it up so people can
That'd be
Skype in
fantastic.
or Facebook Live or Twitter in questions. I'd love to have something like that.
That'd be great.
You know, just and really, and actually make it a mission to focus on some of the positivity that we've been talking about in the second half hour, if you will, of this hour-long segment, and move past, because I think your group is showing real leadership in getting the past behind you, purging the system, dealing with those issues, while simultaneously looking to the real issues, which is how do we educate our children.
The one thing I think our group knows is that while anger is probably the emotion that most elicits a reaction and action, anger is highly combustible, and it tends to flash burn.
It's short-lived.
It's this big flash and then nothing. So
Somebody once said I was an angry person.
I get that too.
Yeah, well, setting the world on fire, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
One time
Darryl Gould. Thanks again, buddy.
Thank you, Pat.
All right. We're going to take a very quick break right now. Joining us in the next segment is Ms. Brittany Hunter. She is with an organization called Feed. And if you're someone who's looking for yet another source of great writing, someone who is looking for alternative opinions on our culture, our economy, how we govern, or how we shouldn't govern in many cases, then we are proud to have Brittany join us as yet another one of the great young writers that is emerging out of the swamp, if you will, in D.C., and bringing real light and analysis and creating a level of accessibility to issues that I think are ignored by the mainstream media. So looking forward to that conversation.
Excellent.
All right.
Thanks again, Pat.
Great. We're going to take a quick break for now. As always, we are the Coalition. We're loud and proud. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. On the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. And of course, our mothership, coalitionradio.us, where you'll see links to our podcast page, where this will appear soon in the next day or two, hopefully. And you'll see links to our YouTube page, where this will also appear. For those folks who could take the time and just like us or follow us, it would be a blessing. It's how we reach out to people at a time when media is just filled with white noise. We like to think that we offer an alternative and introspective look at today's issues. So we thank you for your time. Give us about 3, 4, 5 minutes, and we'll be right back.